From the WATE.com Digital Center, answering your legal questions. This is Ask Isaacs. Now, here's Lori Tucker and attorney Greg Isaacs.
Arrest. A lot of people talking about that for DWI. This happened in the Hamptons after a night out with friends. Greg, we brought you in to talk about that this week. Let's first talk about what happened. He was pulled over after officers say he was spotted running a stop sign and then swerving into oncoming traffic, not staying in his lane. We have his mugshot here, and officers said that he had all the signs of being drunk behind the wheel.
Well, Lori, it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how this DUI in the Hamptons for Justin Timberlake plays out. But every DUI warrant that I see, typically, and I'm sitting here looking at it, says, and this is from a different state, but says the same thing. And even before I looked at it, I was going to say it says bloodshot, glassy eyes, strong odor of an alcoholic beverage. I won't even read it. Emanating from his desk,
yes,
breath unsteady on his feet.
Yes.
So every single person that I see that's arrested mysteriously has those same symptoms. Now, in fairness to law enforcement, sometimes they have those same symptoms, but just know Justin Timberlake's the verbiage or the narrative on that warrant is kind of the same cookie cutter description that we see every day.
According to the report, he refused to provide a breath sample and was taken into custody. What happens when you refuse that, and is it smart to refuse that?
Well, let's put it in context and compare it to Tennessee law. Mm-hmm. So basically, the charge of driving under the influence of an intoxicant is a crime in Tennessee. It's a Class A misdemeanor. Mm-hmm. And let's preface it by saying this. It doesn't mean that you are charged with driving drunk. It just means that you were under the influence of an intoxicant. So that's kind of the fine line distinction. And in Tennessee, if you are asked to provide a breath or a blood sample, and you refuse, it's not a crime in and of itself. It can't be used against you. It merely could result in a civil administrative revocation of your license. So kind of like two parallel trains. You got your criminal case. Law enforcement wants you to give a blood sample or breath test to have evidence to convict you.
Yeah.
If you say no, you can lose your license. But that typically goes by the wayside with whatever happens to your DUI. If DUI gets dismissed, that gets dismissed.
While we're talking about DUI, DWI, you made that distinction, but just so people know, so they're very clear, those are two different things, and he's charged with DWI.
Well, the people call it DUI, DWI.
Is it the same thing?
It's the same thing, except in Tennessee we have underage DWI as opposed to DUI.
Driving while intoxicated.
Driving while intoxicated.
Okay.
But it was interesting to hear some of the pundits debate whether Justin Timberlake should have blown, given blood or not.
Yeah.
And one person said, that you should, it looks bad. I mean, conventional wisdom is you never, ever want to, and think about it. It is your Fourth Amendment right not to consent to anyone having your bodily fluids, to search your vehicle, search your home. That's what we've been all about for over 200 years here in this country. So, I think it's always smart to require law enforcement, if they really want to get a breath or a blood sample, they can go to a magistrate and get a search warrant if that detached magistrate.
But how long does that take, and then how long does that remain in your system? Delay tactic.
That could be an issue. So I think Justin Timberlake was smart in not providing evidence, because here's something else that's significant. The amount of the blood alcohol triggers whether you're going to be convicted, most likely, or the level of punishment.
Okay, and I have read today, I'm sure you have too, you've got this opinion, he may just get a slap on the wrist, and it doesn't mean just because he's famous.
Well, different states have different punishments and levels for driving under the influence of an intoxicant. And let's kind of compare it to Tennessee. and we'll start by talking about the level of blood alcohol. Right now, currently the law is if you blow or your blood result is 0.08 or over, that is prima facie evidence that you are intoxicated or driving under the influence. Now, today, if you're pulled over and your blood alcohol is 0.20, it is an enhanced DUI that would carry, instead of 48 hours in jail, 7 days in jail.
All right,
But
pushing it up to a week, but it's changing again, yes?
It is going to change in Tennessee around the 1st of July. So the enhanced DUI cutoff is 0.15. This effort was pushed by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. And let me tell you what a difference it makes. Lowering that enhanced DUI level from 0.20 to 0.15 will result in about 81% of all convictions being enhanced DUIs.
Wow.
So, the old proverbial 48 hours in jail ain't like it used to be. So just know. So DUI, let's fast forward to the 1st of July. Under Tennessee law, would be if your blood alcohol is 0.15 or greater, a minimum of 7 days in jail, loss of license for a year, DUI school victim impact panel, a mandatory alcohol and drug assessment. Your license revocation would require you to have an ignition interlock device, an IED, if you want to operate your vehicle. Very cumbersome. You have to literally blow in this device before you start your car. If you pop it, if you blow and you still have alcohol in your breath, you have to maintain the device for an additional year before you're eligible to have it removed.
And you think about all these things, and it seems like this is a really great deterrent to protect families out there on the road who are just innocently driving, and they come into contact with people who've had too much to drink. In fact, 1 in 7 serious injury crashes involved a DUI, and we have some graphics to show you here. From May 2023 to 24, 1 in 3 fatal crashes in Tennessee involved a DUI. 1 in 2 resulted in injury and death, and we're seeing all those spots. Those were crashes occurred all across the state.
Well, Lori, DUI is a problem, an epidemic in the state of Tennessee and also nationally. And it's unfortunate, but statistics show nationally every day 36 people die in a crash related to DUI. There is someone killed by a drunk driver or driving their vehicle while impaired every 39 minutes in this country. Now think about that. We're not talking about cancer, we're not talking about guns, we're talking about getting behind the wheel and operating a vehicle. So it is a problem, and that's why you see pushes. And last year, the marquee change in the law was changing the law regarding BUI, boating under the influence, to allow it to mirror DUI as a deterrent. And now the initiative by the TBI was to lower that threshold. But think about it, over 80% of all DUIs, if you take that breath or blood test, are going to result in a minimum of 7 days. So it's a lot different. Now you can arrange to do your period of incarceration on a weekend. You can kind of very discreetly tell your employer, I'm going to be late, et cetera. But I mean, 7 days is a significant period of time.
A week in jail. Far different than a weekend. Okay, let me ask you this. If you were Justin Timberlake's attorney, what would you advise him to do? He was overheard telling officers, this is going to ruin my tour. I had one martini. One officer was so young he didn't recognize him. It was not a good night for Justin Timberlake.
Not a good night for Justin.
Thankfully, nobody was hurt.
Well, we say this in the context of very many things, and I was impressed with his lawyer when you had all these so-called legal experts commenting on this specific case. He declined to make any comments. I would tell Justin Timberlake not to make any comments because we're not worried about the court of public opinion. We're worried about the courtroom in the Hamptons. And the more publicity, the more pushback and difficult you make it for prosecutors. So you want to say as little as you can. I would try to continue this case to get it off the media's radar and see if you can reach a reasonable resolution. I would also be interviewing the bartenders, the people that were at the restaurant that he was at. And, you know, the other thing you'll see, and it will be interesting to see if it gets leaked, and we'll see it on TMZ before we see it in the courtroom, is the officer's body cam or the dash cam footage. Yeah. So we'll see if Justin was moonwalking or what he was doing. And the other thing I'm not sure from the facts that will be interesting, you know, Justin's someone that's performed at the Super Bowl at halftime, a lot of moves that I certainly don't have, whether he was required to do field sobriety test. Yeah. So, you know, that's something that's going to be interesting as this case evolves. But, you know, I think it shows basically that nobody's above the law. And it also shows you, if you look at how easy it is for law enforcement to find probable cause, because if you read the narrative on the arrest warrant, Justin Timberlake merely rolled the stop sign, so he attracts someone's attention and then he kind of weaves. Under Tennessee law, it's interesting, you can be pulled over and it's a legal stop, even if you're weaving inside your lane. Oh, wow. So you don't hit the fog lights, you don't hit the light, I mean the strips in the little. So anyhow, but
very interesting.
A very serious crime, but just know in Tennessee, the penalties for DUI are going to increase the 1st of July. But don't drink and drive. And the other thing is, statistics show that there are collateral consequences. DUI, the national average is your insurance goes up 70%. Average here in Tennessee of $1,400 annually. So, you know,
there's that taking away from the fact that the larger issue is you got people driving down the road who have no idea, you know, and you're just like a speeding bullet in your car. So
well, people forget, I mean, vehicles weigh, like your typical SUV is 6,000 pounds. So you have this projectile, you know, shooting down the road, and, you know, you certainly don't want the person that's behind the wheel to be impaired. I mean, it's...
Right, and a lot of people are saying, and this is kind of beside the point, but maybe not. A lot of people are saying, well, this guy can afford to have someone drive him. And that goes to, if you overindulge, have a driver, have a designated driver.
Well, it's, you know...
Not that you should do that, but you know what I mean.
What?
Be ready to go. Call an Uber.
Uber, but the problem is,
private plane. I don't know.
When you're impaired, you're impaired, and I don't know why, but I mean, I have case after case where people will Uber and then get home and feel the burning desire to go to Taco Bell after you have practiced, you know, good citizenship and safety all night. So, you know, that's kind of the problem, but don't drink and drive. Justin Timberlake is a, you know, good example that no one is above the law. And think about it. He's in the playground of the stars, the Hamptons. And you would think that Justin could have, he said he had one martini and just kind of, you know, cruise on down the road. But no, in Tennessee, the law's tough and it's getting ready to get a lot tougher. So don't drink and drive.
Yes. All right. Real quick before I let you go. What merit does this have? His next court appearance is set for July 26th, and it's going to be a virtual appearance. He's not going to be there in person. Is that something that you try to do for a celebrity or anybody, or what does that mean?
Things have changed since COVID, and courtrooms all across the country now utilize virtual appearances for people that reside out of state. We see it a lot, but I would do anything I could to keep Justin Timberlake out of the line of fire from the paparazzi, and I think the video idea is fine. But typically these first appearances, second appearances, third appearances are basically benign scheduling matters. And what you would have and what you don't want is when you go in for somebody and say, I've been retained by Mr. Timberlake, can we set a hearing date? And it's front page news with people following you down the hall.
Or with the caption saying "day after looking rough." We saw that.
Yeah. So, you know, I think it's very positive for Justin that it's going to be virtual, but again, that's not atypical post-COVID courtrooms.
All right. Let's talk more about it at 5:30.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks for joining us.